long-term transportation. I've seen all these preppers on here going to build wood gasifiers to run their generators. They're going to, convert bacon grease to run their diesel engines. Okay, that's good. What about the oil lubrication stuff? You're not going to have a problem with that. Parts. Oh, let's say your part breaks in your wood gasifier pickup truck. Oh, don't forget the motor oil that goes in there. All the other little rubber gaskets that wear out. Now, I'm talking totally long-term stuff. And what got me thinking about this was, when I got the horse, I started watching some YouTube videos on horse-drawn implements. And most everybody out there is preparing for a short-term stuff. So, if you're long-term homesteading, I would go to look back at what things were done in the old Western days. If a family wanted to move any distance, generally it involved at least a covered wagon and a couple of extra horses. Now, the covered wagon could be a mule team or even oxen. Most of them used mules because the mules, after pulling the wagon, would then purpose to pull the plow. Ideally, this is just in my ideal fantasy world, each family member would have a horse. You would have a covered wagon and a smaller buckboard. A buckboard is kind of like the pickup truck of the old days, Usually it could be pulled by one horse or maybe a team, but small. So you wouldn't hook up the big covered wagon all the time. You'd hook up the big covered wagon like if you wanted to go to town and your town was 10 miles away. The buckboard would be for like going from neighbor to neighbor within 5-mile radius, trading amongst neighbors. Let's say you own dairy and your other farmer owned chickens. You'd load up your dairy products and go around and deliver them on your buckboard to your neighbors. Simple. And then you have a couple of horses for everybody to transport around, kind of like the little Honda cars. So basically, let's say a family of 5. You would need 5 horses. And 4 of which should be, how would you say, trailer trained or wagon trained. Maybe a couple of mules, a mule team, and a horse team, and an extra horse. That gives you 5 horses. So while you're bugging out, you'd have the 2 mules and a horse hooked to the buckboard. And the mules would be pulling the heavy stuff in the covered wagon. And you'd have your 2 outriders, for security. And that's how you would travel across the country. Face it. If you look at an average, let's say a 15-hand quarter horse, that quarter horse can easily, if you pack it properly, around 400 pounds it can carry on its back. Now, that same horse pulling a trailer, you could load, for just one horse, you could carry you and the 400 pounds. So you've effectively got 700 pounds you can do if you have a trailer or a wagon. And the team of horses, likewise, they would haul 1,200 pounds of cargo. So, when you put it on wheels, it's just like you. Think about what you can carry on your back, and then get one of those fancy wheelbarrows and put that same load in the wheelbarrow and push it and pull it. You get basically what you're doing. Same thing. And if you look at the Amish, you'll find that they can cut hay, haul hay, and everything else. Hay is a major thing. If you can't get the tractors to do everything, you still need the wagon to scoop the hay in, to scoop the wheat in, and a horse still comes in for that. And that's one of the big reasons why an EMP would wipe out the big cities, is because there is not enough horses left in this country, enough people to use the horses to bring food to a small town. I mean, my town, closest town to me, is like 30,000 people, and there's a lot of horses around here, but hardly any of them are wagon trained, and there are not enough wagon trained ones to feed those 30,000 people. And those 30,000 people don't know enough about agriculture to plant a garden. I imagine we could learn them real quick, but if something was to happen in the fall before things could be grown, it would be really bad. Now, if there was an EMP that happened in the spring or something, you know, first thing you do you tell everybody, plant seeds immediately. I mean, if there was an EMP to go off, you know, right now, I'd say get winter wheat in the ground. Tell all the farmers, plant as much winter wheat as you can, because that's all everybody's going to be sick of it. But that's what we can plant now. Okay, so let's say it happens in the spring or something. You give everybody has to have gardens. Everybody that has a horse that can plow or an old tractor that runs, you're going to use the gas that was in your car to give to that farmer to put in his tank to plow your whole front yard up. Your whole front yard will be plowed into a garden. If you have a horse that can pull, we'd be digging out some old plows or tearing the plows off a tractor and hooking it up to where a horse could pull a single plow, or a mule, ideally. Draft horses are far and few in between. So that's why, these riding horses, that trail horse I got, she could pull a small wagon. Now, me being in the trucking industry, I would love, if I was in better shape, to, train a team, train teams of horses to pull wagons. That would be cool, because then I would start up my own trucking company, except we'd have horses. There's still freight still has to be transported, whether it's by truck or whatever you got to pull it with. So that's just the entrepreneur in me. You say, oh, horse-drawn wagons. Yeah, okay, we can still move freight. Not as much, but we can move a little. And some is better than none. The only problem we have is the city slickers out there. That's just where the outriders come in. Because city slickers are so ignorant that they would shoot the horse to eat it instead of realizing that that horse can bring in more food. It's just like a dog. People will sometimes, well, don't get me wrong, many dogs are worthless. But some dogs, like these little rodents dogs I got running around here, they will scare up rabbits and everything. I mean, these have got to be the huntingest little bitty miniature dogs I've ever had. They will. There's not a mole in the yard that escapes these miniature pinchers. So, as far as I can walk out in the field, and these little dogs will scare up rabbits. You would think they were rabbit dogs. They're not trained to bring the rabbit. Anyway, this is about horses. So, yeah, if you're into prepping and you've got all your food put back and everything, and you've got your wood gasifier to run your car for a year or so, or you've got enough fuel storage to run everything, if you want to go into long term, and if you have the acreage. If you only have an acre of land, there is no sense in getting a horse. You're not going to do it. You may want to consider going in with somebody else to start a horse ranch. I've thought about that. Well, I don't have a tractor, so I can't do it. But if I did, I could probably take in preppers' horses. Put only one horse per every 3 acres. That way, we barely have to buy any hay for. Well, actually, your part would be you come out here and help haul the hay and put it up in the barn, and give me some rental for the tractors and everything, and we would keep the horses here. And for an extra phenomenal fee, I would train your horse to pull a wagon if you wanted to, but you would have to assist. I'm not going to do everything by myself. It's just like one time I had a cookout, and everybody thought it was they come to watch and eat. I would never do that again. I would do it as a clinic where you are going to do the work, and I would show you how to do it. I am never again going to have a demo Dutch oven cookout, or I'm going to never again have a demo. It'll be a workshop. That's what you call it, a workshop, where you are going, if you want me to show you how to do something, you're going to work. Nobody comes to watch. No watching. You're doing. I might come over and give you a couple of cranks on a grain and say, this is how you do it. Now you do that for 30 minutes. If it's too hard, don't come to my workshop. It'll be the same way with the horses. If you're going to do it, here's how you do it. Okay, you do it. Here's how you put the tack on. Here's how you take care of the tack. In other words, when you're done working them, you muck out your stalls and everything else. There's not going to be none of that. Me doing it for you. That's the biggest problem I've ever had with people coming over and want me to show them how to do things. They want me to do it and then sit back and go like this. No, that don't cut it. I said, I'll show you. You do it. You do the labor, and I'll sit back and do like this and tell you whether you're doing it right or wrong. Anyway, back to the transportation. Yes, I've been doing some more research on it, and gasifiers and having fuel storage and everything is good for a short term, up to a year and a half. And if it's diesel, maybe 3 years. And then you're talking a lot of storage. So if you're prepping for anything long term, you might ought to consider horsepower for the long term. That's all I got to say about that. Horsepower is not a bad. You know what? Come to think of it, right now, if I had a small one-horse wagon, I would not have a bit of problem of riding a horse to town, to Walmart. If I had a wagon, to haul the groceries in, it's kind of hard to haul it on horseback unless you want to go every day. But I would have no problem right now if I had an Amish cart or one of them buggies like the Amish use. I wouldn't have a problem taking it to Walmart. The local city folks would probably have a problem with it, like look at you like, he's got a horse, boy. That guy's crazy. Well, you know what? You don't have to pay a wheel tax with a horse, do you?